Welcome to Lighting for Profits.
All right.
Powered by Emry Allen.
Get rid of your excuses.
Your number one source for all things landscape lighting.
That's where the magic can happen. You can really scale a business.
We really had to show up for each other.
From lighting design, install, sales, and marketing.
You're a scaredy cat salesman, Kurt.
We discuss everything you need to know to start and grow a successful landscape lighting business.
What do you think a hippo has to do with your business, Ryan?
Usually it's some weird childhood thing. Some bully kicked your butt.
I think the key factor here is trust.
Here is your host, Ryan Lee.
All right. Welcome to the number one landscape lighting show in Beverly Hills. That's right. It's the number one landscape lighting show in Beverly Hills today. Lighting for Profits, powered by Emry Allen. Thank you so much for being part of the show. If you're here live, let us know in the comments. Got an excellent show lined up for you today. We got the one and only Mr. Jim Ply. Jim's going to join us from Beverly Hills. His company that he started, Crest Landscape and Lighting. So if you've wanted to get better in the design world and you want to elevate your business, get in front of people that want that better lighting design and not just going to throw in a handful of fixtures, you're definitely going to want to pay attention to this episode. We're here to educate and motivate to help you dominate in your world. So if you're looking to start or grow a landscape lighting business, you're definitely in the right place. And just want to thank you guys so much for your support. I'm going to keep asking for those 5-star reviews. You know, getting a review for your business is not that hard. You just have to ask your clients and send them a link or whatever. And there's softwares that help you do it. But it's hard to get reviews for podcasts because I have to convince you to open up the podcast app. Then you have to scroll, find Lighting for Profits. Then you have to scroll and find where to do the review. I can't just send you a link. You hit the 5 stars. And then if you could write something really nice, I would appreciate it. Ray Arneson, thank you so much. You were our last to give us a review this last week. So appreciate it. Thank you very much. And again, guys, in just a few minutes, we're going to have Jim Ply with Crest Landscape and Lighting. This is definitely going to be one that you're going to listen to multiple times. What's up, Tim Ryan? Thanks for being here. Tim was with us at Illy capturing some amazing shots. And I want to remind you as well, I'm still hiring a salesperson for Landscape Lighting Secrets. So this is a remote position. You can live anywhere in the world. So if you know somebody, make sure to connect us. It's an excellent opportunity. And we're literally changing lives here, you guys. And that's not just cliche. We're helping so many people grow their business, replace themselves. We're impacting their personal relationships, their relationships with their employees, their team members, their families, everything. So we're literally changing lives. If you want to be a part of it, just reach out, support@ryanleecoaching.com. Also, I'm excited to announce we got Landscape Lighting Live coming up. It's back, Landscape Lighting Live, February 1st and 2nd in Tampa, Florida. Get information or get your ticket at landscapelightinglive.com. These always sell out. We've actually increased capacity a little bit more to allow for more people because they are selling out so quick. But go get your ticket now. It's a tax write-off. So go get your ticket at landscapelightinglive.com. And of course, I want to thank Emry Allen. They've been a great partner for us here. And guys, you know this, a fixture is only as good as the light source inside it, right? So this light source is what your customers and future customers will ultimately see at night. This will result in thousands of dollars in return business for you, along with glowing referrals. Emry Allen believes every lighting professional should have access to a light source engineered from the ground up, dedicated to high performance when you need it most. At the end of the day, it's what's on the inside that counts. So take advantage of Emry Allen's world-class customer service and get 10% off your first order for new clients. Again, don't waste your time going to their website because then you're just going to pay more than you need to. Email Tom G at emryallen.com and tell him that you heard about him here on Lighting for Profits. He's going to hook you up with your discounted contractor pricing as well. Just email Tom G at emryallen.com. All right, guys. Again, in just a few minutes, we're going to have Jim Ply come on. And I got the opportunity to spend a little bit of time with him this last week at Illy. And it was awesome. It was great being back with the Illy crowd. It's the International Landscape Lighting Institute. illyedu.org is the website. And I think there must have been an accounting error, or maybe everyone else was busy. I'm not sure. But I got an invite to be a mentor right? I'm like, what? This is so awesome. Because I was just there in the spring as an attendee, and I was invited back to be with the mentor team, and I absolutely loved it. And I'm actually really happy to share a win, you guys. I was nominated, and I eventually accepted the award for Rover Mentor of the Year. Right, so give it up for your boy Ryan Lee here. It's actually an award that doesn't exist. So, and I think I was the only one that was nominated. But I don't want to make a big deal of it. And I joke around quite a bit, but I really am sincerely grateful for the invitation and the opportunity that I had to be back with the Illy crowd. It's an amazing group. They provide a lot of great information and great education over there. And a lot of what I say, a lot of what I do is highly criticized by many. And if you don't believe me, just check my DMs, right? But when you put out as much content as I do, you're bound to piss somebody off. You're bound to offend somebody, right? And that's definitely not my intent. But I'm just here doing my thing, right? And I've never been as vulnerable as I have these last few years as I've been doing this process. And as much as I love Illy, they don't have to love me back. And I'm not really your poster child for the program, but for whatever reason, they've been very, very accepting. And for that, I'm extremely grateful, because I don't think it's necessarily easy. I'm not sitting here just like preaching design, design, design. I mean, I'm more preaching business, right? But one of the things I love about Illy is they're fulfilling a need that is crucial in this industry. It's very much needed, right? And it's design. So just like I'm preaching like business and sales, pricing, marketing, building a team with culture, all the things business related, I'm filling a need in the industry. They're teaching people how to, elevate their design skills. And there's really no other in-person training like it. So we'll probably talk a little bit about this last week with Jim Ply, who's coming on here in just a minute. But if you're someone who has experience in the industry and you're looking for that next step, you're looking to elevate your business, looking to elevate your designs, this is it. Just go to illyedu.org. That's ILLIEDU.org. And by the way, I don't get paid to promote them. In fact, the more you spend with them, the less you have to spend with me. So maybe it's not the smartest strategy. But honestly, I feel like it's a worthwhile investment. And honestly, like, it's not going to cost you anything. Sure, you're going to pay money, you're going to spend time, but it's not going to cost you anything, because you're going to get an ROI with the things that you learn. In fact, I was on a coaching call today with some members of my program. A handful of them were there this last week. And one of them came back. He just shared, like, one of his wins was he was so energized. He was so ready to level up his game and got like more passionate about lighting. And he was able to close 3 like of his largest deals ever. Now, some of them, okay, maybe he would have closed without, but it was that extra energy, the extra passion that helped him close it. So don't worry about like how much time you're going to be gone from your business or how much it's going to cost you. You're definitely going to get a return on your investment. So that's that. And again, before we have Jim on, I want to mention one other thing. It seems like wherever I go, I didn't realize, like, I didn't mean for this to happen, but I become known as like the pricing guy. And people give me a hard time. Like, I'll be sitting at a table, someone comes up and they're like, all right, so what are we talking about? Raising our prices? And I'm like, kind of. And I guess I do talk a lot about pricing, but there's one thing I want to clarify, because this is super important. And I believe that, yes, I believe that the majority of the people listening to this do need to raise their prices, because generally speaking, we undervalue the service that we provide. Okay. But I do want to ensure one thing, that when you raise your price, you also need to raise your value. Right. And I don't talk about this a lot, which is, I'm like, wait, no, we need to talk about this. You need to make yourself more valuable, because you can't expect to be the highest price and not be able to justify it. You start raising your price, you're going to have issues closing deals, because you don't offer more value, right? So I hear people say all the time, well, I can't charge that in my area, and that's true. If you're saying that, if you're thinking that, you're right. But it's not because people won't pay it. It's because you're not offering enough value. Okay. Wealthy people, they don't care what something costs. You think they do, and that's they got discipline and they know how to spend their money, but they don't really care what something costs. They only care what it's worth. So think about that for a minute. So what do you have to offer? What does your business offer that's different and more valuable than somebody else? Are you really better? Think about this. Are you really better than all the other lighting designers in your area? Why? And if you can't answer that question, like right this second with a very detailed response, then maybe you're not, right? Or maybe you need to get more clarity on it. And if your answer is like, well, because we're family owned, I'm like, okay, what business isn't family owned? Like if you're not family owned, then what does that mean? You're orphan owned? Like you're an orphan and you don't have a family and like someone else owns your business? Like so would being an orphan owned, are you saying like that family owned is being better than orphan owned? Like it's very confusing because everyone's family owned, right? And I'm giving you a hard time about this because when I started my business, I printed these postcards, and actually they weren't even postcards, they were flyers because I couldn't afford the postage. I literally couldn't afford to like mail things out. I could afford to print the cards, the flyers, and then I could go knock doors and leave them on the doors if they weren't home. But one of the things at the top, it said family owned. Like is that how you add value? Because it's not really that different than anyone else. The other thing that I see people promoting is locally owned. It's like, wow, this is really valuable. Locally owned. And again, I think that was on my flyer. I think I was like family owned, locally owned. I couldn't think of a way to differentiate myself. And here's the thing, like I passed out these flyers, I knocked doors and it worked, which is kind of dangerous because when something works, we automatically think that it's good. But that's dangerous because just because it's good doesn't mean it's great, right? So you may go, well, I've been doing this for years and it works for me. Well, what if you change your mindset and you are open to learning new things from a business standpoint, from a design standpoint, from whatever, right? Because just because something's working doesn't mean it's great. It just means it's been working good enough, right? Other things I see people kind of bragging about is like, we care about the client. Like, okay, well, so do I. So does the other 2,000 lighting designers in the US, right? Is customer service a top priority? Okay, so is it everybody else, right? And then the last thing I did put on my card, I had this on the flyer. It said satisfaction guaranteed. Like, what the heck does that mean? Does that mean if someone spends $100,000 with me in a lighting system and they say they don't like it, that I'll rip it out and give them their money back? Like, what does satisfaction guaranteed even mean, right? So my point is those are not very good ways to add value because they're not that valuable. They're something that everybody's offering. Maybe you say you're the best in the business. Again, like what does that mean, right? So how do you increase value? Like what can you do to increase value? Because the moment that the value you create is so much bigger than the price that you lay out, a deal is made. Like that's the key to landing projects, right? Just make sure your value supersedes the cost, right? If you guys haven't heard of Alex Hermosi, check him out. He's all over YouTube and social media, and he's got books and everything. But his book called $100 million Offers: How to Make Offers So Good People Feel Stupid Saying No. And that's really what we're trying to do: is make an offer so good that like they'd feel stupid to say no. So I'm just going to leave you guys a couple ways that you can add value, and then we're going to have Jim come on. Number one, get educated. So this is actually like opposite of, you're probably thinking of like value proposition, whatever, but first thing is get educated. So like in my coaching program, Landscape Lighting Secrets, we teach people how to build your sales process to be unique to you. So you get educated on new things that enhance the client experience. Because while everyone else is doing the same mundane sales presentation and not putting any energy and effort and creating an experience where someone's ready to say yes and would feel stupid to say no, members of Landscape Lighting Secrets are getting trained on how to get people to say yes every single time. So get educated is number one. Number two, get training. So we're just talking about going to Illy, right? So when I first left Illy in the spring, my terminology, my design approach, I mean, all these things completely get transformed in just a week, right? You start thinking differently, you start speaking differently, and you find that your clients and your competitors won't have a chance. So get educated, get training. And then the third one, which there's a lot of different ways to add value, but just because of time, the third one, your unique selling proposition. So what is a system or process that you do that no one else does, right? And this is sometimes hard for people to come up with because they're like, well, I don't know. I install lights, I design lights. Like what's different? Well, sometimes other people do things, but maybe you do it a specific way, or maybe like you do two of maybe like your competitor does two of the three things you do, or one of the three things, but you're the only one in your market that does all three things at the same time. And a little bit of a pro tip here, come up with your own named system. So like mine was called the 5-star service system. So it was our own 5-star service system. Someone can't replicate that. They could, but we named it. It's ours, right? So come up with your own branded, named system that makes it unique to you. All right, so that's it, guys. I wanted to just talk to you about adding value because it's not just about increasing price. Yeah, you should, but you gotta, if you can increase value, then you can increase and you can charge whatever you want because the price or the value is always greater than the price. All right, guys, if you're live, let me know if you're ready for our guest. I know I am. I'm excited to pick his brain. So we got Mr. Jim Ply coming on. Let's get the music going. You guys ready? I hope so. What is up? What is up? Welcome to the show, Mr. Jim Ply. How are you?
Great, Ryan. It's quite the opening you do.
Thanks, man. I'm excited to have you on here and pick your brain a little bit.
Sure. Love to have a conversation about lighting anytime.
I kind of gathered that. So, well, let's get going. I got to know you a little bit more at this last session of Illy, and I think you've got a lot of unique things about you. But then there's also some things that are just like, wait, this guy is just like a normal guy that happened to learn things that everybody else can too. So I'm hoping to kind of tap into that a little bit as well. Now, first off, you're a 5th generation lighting designer. Is that right?
Absolutely not.
So I bring that up because, I think sometimes when people meet you and others at your level, it's easy to assume that like you were born this way or things were handed to you or, it must be nice type situation. But the more I got to know you, I'm like, man, you got a really cool story. How did you get your start into entrepreneurship?
Well, way back. That went back to age 12. I was mowing yards. We had a push mower. That's a real regular push mower. And I saw that the gardeners at the time, who were all Japanese, they would have these beautiful trimmer lawnmowers with engines and all that. And I didn't know how to get one. We couldn't afford one. So I went down and talked to my neighbor who was mowing. I had 1 yard. I said, I could do a better job for you if I had a gas powered mower. I said, you have St. Augustine grass. I'll do a much better job for you. I said, I have $40. I said, if you pay for the rest of it, I will go get 3 houses across the street. And he looked at me and said, okay. I didn't know I was asking for financing. It's just, I wanted something. I didn't know how to get it. I found a way to get it. And here we are. I haven't mowed a yard since maybe 10th grade. I still have that mower in my shop. I'll never get rid of that. But that's how entrepreneurship started, taking bottles to the store for money. So you can buy candy and whatever you needed to buy. But it started way back then.
So that's cool. So as a kid, you had that like taste of it and you realized you were kind of problem solving. Then as you grow up into adulthood, when life gets real and you're like, man, I got real bills to pay, you're probably thinking, those bottles aren't going to pay for rent and things like that. So what job did you have? Did you think you were going to do the rest of your life?
Well, I wanted to be a fighter pilot, and then that didn't work. I had some asthma, and they said no to the medicine I was taking at the time. And so then I thought, well, police work's kind of cool. You get to, play with a lot of toys. I didn't want a job where I was inside. I wanted to do something different, I kind of always followed this. Things that people can't do, won't do, or afraid to do. I wanted to go do those things. That's what makes life fun. Take the challenge, a managed risk, I would say. And so I got into police work and started in 1980 and became a canine handler. And it was during a meeting with our canine unit that I learned that you had to, I don't know if I can say it here, ask, kiss, or backstab to promote. And that's all I ever wanted to be, was successful at something. And a friend of mine, when I came home, told him about the meeting. I said, I need to do something else also. I'm not going to quit, but I said, I need to do something else also. He says, learn landscape. He was a masonry contractor. And I said, okay. I yell at him now because I wish he would have told me to get into real estate, because then I would have been a gazillionaire by now, but that didn't happen. And he gave me a name and a phone number of a guy. I went out the next day. This guy tells me, he said, this is the planner. My wife loves azaleas. What do you think? I said, I'll come back with the design in 3 days. I did that because I didn't know what an azalea was. I knew nothing about anything, but I knew how to solve problems. So I found a nursery. They drew a design, and I went back. It was $768. That was the proposal amount. And he said, do it. And I realized I have to go back to school. And I went back to college. I took all the design, soils, shrub ID, tree ID, everything for landscape. I completed the 2-year program. And that's kind of how this whole thing started.
So you get into landscaping. And one of the things I like about you as a child and here, and it's a common denominator amongst every successful person I know, is you're willing to just take action. And you don't know what an azalea is, but you're out selling a landscape design, a landscape project. That's key to success for everybody. And then you also recognize at certain level that this will last so long, but let me go back and get educated more on what I'm going to do if I'm going to be serious about this.
The 2 reasons. I didn't want to be embarrassed. I didn't want to not have the answer, and I wanted to be better. So there were 2 reasons to go back and do that. So when I finished the 2-year portion of the program, I went to Cal Poly Pomona, and I was going to do the landscape architecture route. And remember, I'm still doing police work full time. So I talked to the head of the department. I said, what do you teach on exterior lighting? He says, not much. I said, really? He goes, no, we don't really, it's not a big deal. So on my drive home, that's when I decided to not try to go and pursue that track any longer. I thought, I'm going to try to figure out this lighting niche, because there's nobody teaching it. There's nowhere to learn this. I knew it wasn't going to be easy. I didn't know how hard it was going to be to actually, get to a point where I could do this properly. But that was probably back in the late 80s is when that happened.
Wow.
And the only thing I could find education wise was Bill Laughlin, Nightscape. He had a program called Nightscape University, and that was out in Redlands, California. And I went and did that, but it was more just about fixtures and nothing about design. But that was how this whole thing started.
So you got your landscape business. Now you got your landscape and lighting business, still full-time police officer. This is really still your side hustle as it's growing. When did you start to learn more about lighting to where it's like, you know what, I'm going to take this to the next level? Was that sooner or was that later?
Well, lighting was always been a component. We were installing Malibu sets, on our landscape projects. So I would probably guess that my installation costs for a lighting system using a Malibu set was probably $200 installed. The set was probably $69. I don't know, but that's where this all started. It was that small, but we had installed a very expensive large palm, a Phoenix Reclinata, in a home. It was probably 25 feet tall. And I put these Malibu lights around. And of course, they didn't do anything. And I knew it could be better, but I didn't know how to solve the problem. But I think the key to business, or key to anything, is if you don't find a solution in one spot, you keep looking and you try another door, and that's what I did. Eventually I went to, I went to every little distributor's talk on lighting I could find, 1 hour course, 2 hour thing that they would offer. And that's when I ran into Nate Mullen at the time. And he came in there and he looked at the group of 30 people sitting in one of these Ewing or whatever it was. And before he said anything, he says, I think all of you, maybe one, just wasted your time coming here because none of you are going to use this information. And I thought, I'm not going to let this guy tell me, if I'm going to succeed or not. But I used it as motivation. And I got to give credit to Nate. He caused that fire in me. And so I got in with his program and I learned what I could from Nate. We lit everything with par 36 lamps, but it wasn't there's one name that kept coming up and that was Jan Moyer. And so finally back in 2008, I called Jan. So a long period of time's gone by. I called Jan and found out she's got her class and I went and took it. And that was the game changer for me. I've been teaching that class ever since. So.
And that was in 2008.
I took my first class with Jesse Luxe and John Pletcher and a few other guys that are still involved in the program. And we just had such a great experience and we just got better. But it really wasn't until I became a mentor and we started going year after year after year. And that is what really changed the way I look at lighting. It allowed me, when you teach, you learn, hopefully. And I think that's what really made me get better. It made me look at lighting differently. And I can't suggest enough that anybody watching this, you need to go out and learn. You need to experiment. You need to try different things. You need to talk to people that are in the industry and you need to problem solve. If something's not going your way, find a solution for it.
So you mentioned when you teach, you learn. Talk a little bit about that experience. Cause I've experienced that these last three years. I'm like, man, I feel like I've learned. I'm on the teaching side of it now, like every day, and I've learned way more in these last 3 years than I had like the 10 years previously. Why is that?
I think you're making the point because you're refocusing what you learned in the initial class or your initial training, and you're breaking it down into small parts so somebody can understand it, and it helps you to understand it better yourself. I think that's a big part of it. And look, you have to have passion for this. Otherwise we're not selling parts here. We do this. I do this because I love it. I love the business side of it too, but I do this because I love having the opportunity to create just incredible experiences for clients that I never thought that we would do. I never could have imagined the type of projects that we get to work on. Never.
So let's talk about some of them. You've mentioned, in some of the conversations we were having, some of the clientele you've worked with, most of them, I feel like for the vast majority, you're under NDA. How do you get the opportunity to get in front of them?
Make friends, network. I think that's the biggest part of this. Obviously you have to be able to back it up by being able to produce good results. Like you said in your intro, you've got to be, the value is in what you produce. But I learned a long time ago that people are buying you. And that was the key. There was an old book I read a long time ago. It said, never eat alone. And I don't even remember the author's name. I think it was Brown, something like that. But I read that back in the early 90s, and any opportunity I have to take someone to lunch or to dinner or just make friends, I don't sell anything. I talk to people, they find out what I do, and I educate them a little bit, and then work comes. And that specifically, I think, relates to the design professionals in your area. There's architects, there's interior designers, there's there's owners reps is another one. And those are the people, some of the general contractors, but those are the people that they want to make their life easy. So if they kind of create a team around them that they give work to, and it makes their life work out well, They know they're using people that aren't going to cause them a problem, people that are going to give them fantastic results. And then they just take you to the next project, to the next project, next project. So that's how the majority of my work comes.
I love hearing that, because I know so many people are afraid of like, what am I going to say? And are they going to reject me or whatever? But like, to your point, they're looking to build the dream team. If you can come in and add value to their position, add value to their life, and show them how good they're going to look in front of their boss or their client, it's just going to add so much value to their business.
Well, let me tell you one more thing about that. They don't understand how the value, all of the people that I mentioned, none of them understand the value of lighting. So they don't understand the benefits they're actually going to realize until you do it for them the first time. And then their minds are blown just as much as the clients.
Right.
And then they now have an ace in their hand, because they know at the end of this project, you're going to be able to knock it out of the park. And that's the icing on the cake. And so that's one of the neat things I love. I walk into, sometimes it's a little bit uncomfortable in the beginning, because you've got these design teams that are in place, and all of a sudden they have somebody coming in that they're told they have to use, and so sometimes it can be a little contentious. I don't worry about that. I just go in, I talk about lighting, I talk about how I see the space, and all of a sudden they're on board. We did that with a very, very well-known and extremely talented landscape architect here in the Southern California area. She does amazing projects. And after about 25 minutes, she said, could you please come do a talk to our office, a lunch and learn? I said, absolutely. So, we went in and spoke to, I don't remember, 10 or 12 people in her office. It was supposed to be a 1-hour conversation. It went 3, because they loved the information and they were seeing lighting in ways that they had never seen it. So much so that she sent her lead designer to take our class in New Harmony a couple of years ago. And at the end of that, she said, we have to rethink everything we've ever thought about lighting. And we just have to approach this differently. And they are at the top of the game. They work for everybody that you've heard of. And that's kind of a sad state of the industry. People should know how important this is. And since they don't, it's our job to educate them.
I love that. And I was going to ask you, like, take us back 15 years, but it sounds like even now, when you go in and meet with someone, I'm trying to get in the mind of someone who's listening and they don't have a lot of these relationships. They're used to just getting like the referral from their last, 20 light job or something like that, but they want to get into that higher network. Sounds like, number one, you need to have a portfolio. You need to have amazing projects that you can show them. And then the way you speak is very eloquent as well. It's different than a standard contractor per se. What other tips would you have for not just landing these, but then impressing them in that 25-minute presentation?
There's about a 20-minute discussion on each one of those points you just made. I don't know where to start first. I learned a long time ago that I want to be thought of as part of the design mind for the project. I don't want to be seen as just a vendor. And I think that's important. So if you take a look at how the landscape architects, the interior designers, the owner's reps, how do they show up to a meeting? How do they show up on the site? Are they showing up with shirts with logos and their name, on their shirt? I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with that, but what it does, and you can't get around this, people put you in a box when they meet you. And I wanted to take myself out, because I used to do that. I took myself out of that box and I made myself part of the design group. I dressed like them. I talk like they do. They see me differently. They see me as having more value than if I'm just, and I'm not saying anything, the plumber on the site or the landscape contractor on site. I need to be looked at differently. And that's when I started doing that. That's what really changed everything for me.
That's great advice. I mean, that's huge right there. You mentioned owner's rep. How do you get in touch with an owner's rep?
Owner's reps, for people that don't know what an owner's rep is, owner's rep, for the most part, handles the construction management on behalf of the client. They act on behalf of the owner, and then so the client doesn't have to meet with everybody. The owner's rep does it, and he brings them a report. And they help facilitate subcontractors to do the different tasks involved with building the project. And so I found that the owner's reps are very, very tightly connected to the client. Interior designers are the other group that are very tightly connected to the client. Architects also, but those two, the owner's rep and the interior designer, they pull a lot of weight. If they like you, then you're okay. If they don't like you, you're done. But the owner's reps, they just bring me to the next project. Bring me the next project, because they've been doing this for a long time. They see the results that we're able to give, and it's not even close to what they've ever seen. And so they're excited to give this added value benefit to their client. It's like a little surprise, which is what I like. I love being able to do that.
Yeah, it's great. And like you said, you're making them look good.
Yeah.
How do you manage that relationship? You meet with the owner's rep. They say, all right, this is what the client wants. What can you do for us? Are you presenting and preparing everything to the owner's rep? Or are you scheduling a meeting with, like, a lot of times they're like, oh, they're never here, I make all the decisions. How do you work around that?
It can be done either way. If I can present to client, that's most important, because then you have that connection, and they remember that they're not buying just someone installing fixtures. They're buying me. So if I can get in front of the client, I have a better chance of educating the client as to the value and the process and what I see and how the space can look, much more so than the owner's rep does. He's just trying to get this project built. So he doesn't really know the nuances of certainly what we do. So it's better if I'm able to do it. If I have to present to the owner's rep in the group, then what I've done is either meet with that person in person, and I do the full presentation to them. I don't just email the proposal and the plan set. That doesn't mean anything. That's just, just run my head into a wall if I have to do that. I'm excited about what I'm doing. I want them to feel that excitement. And it always has an impact. When we're done meeting with the owner's rep or the interior designer, you can see their excitement level increase. And so now they go back and they say, I just had the best meeting, and here's what he wants to do. Because in our world, you're not always able to talk to the client, for many reasons.
Yeah. So let's say you're kind of throw a scenario at you. Let's say you meet with someone, whether it's the client, the owner's rep, the interior designer, and they start saying what they want, what they don't want. There's a phrase out there called buyers are liars. And I don't think that in this case they're lying, but I think a lot of times, well, in almost every instance, unless someone's had professionally designed and installed lighting before, they just don't know what they don't know. When you disagree on a design concept, or like they're saying that's like against your design knowledge, how do you go about that and overcome that scenario?
I think each situation is going to be a little bit different. Police work taught me how to read people and to know when to push, when not to push. And you got to be careful with that. You don't want to get into a fight. God, I don't even know how to approach that with you.
Well, when someone says, like, I've had situations
Yeah.
where they're like, you know what, we really don't want that lit. We want to keep it dark. I go and do it. Like, I push back a little, but I'm like, I don't want to piss this person off. So I do it. And then at the nighttime reveal, we're talking about it. And they're like, we really don't like this. And I'm like, remember when I said we should do it like this?
Right.
But they'll throw me under the bus and say, well, you're the expert. You really should have, steered us the right direction here.
We've had a couple situations like that. If you've got a client that is, keep in mind, the client is used to their lighting the way that they had it before you arrived on site. They called you because you're a professional, and they're expecting you to give your opinion. Now, if they say, I don't like jacaranda trees, I don't want those lit, okay, and then we have to find another way to deal with it. But I would just try to explore why that is the case. Is it because I don't know, maybe it's something you can overcome by conversation. And if you can't, then you don't do it. But we had a client where here in Beverly Hills where he said I did the whole landscape design. We completely transformed their space. It was almost like a park when we were finished. And now we're coming to lighting. And I do my design, and he says, Jim, there's too many fixtures. I am not going to do this. Here we've spent several $100,000 on the landscape, and now we're at this point. He says, we never used, it was an L-shaped space. He goes, that the short side of the L, we don't use that very often. He goes, we don't ever go over there. Well, they didn't go there because of the way it was designed before. The pool equipment and plants were in the middle of this space. They couldn't even see the space. So I knew that they were going to use this visually, if not physically. And he says, okay, I'll let you light part of that down there, but here's how we do it. And this guy's a CEO of a major airline. He says, I want to turn the lights on a switch. So they're on when I want them, and that's it. Okay. Again, know when not to push. We do the lighting. They come out on the veranda, him and his wife, and she is sitting there saying, this is absolutely magical. And they're both taking this in, and I let that go on for 5-10 minutes. And that's when I'm going to hit him. And I said, Al, we had a conversation about controls. I said, I'm doing controls tomorrow. I said, I just want to make sure that you want this on a switch and that you don't want to see this every day. He goes, are you kidding me? He said, of course I want to see this every day. Damn it, you win again.
That's great.
But I knew it was going to be different for them. The experience was going to be different based on what we were going to provide for them. And I think it was the right move not to push earlier in that dynamic. Otherwise, who knows? He might have said, I'm going to have somebody else do it. So, and it worked out well.
I love that. Thanks for sharing that. Okay, we're going to do a quick pause and give away some money. Are you okay with that?
Yep.
We're giving away my money, not yours.
Good.
So, all right. So we're going to do gift card giveaway, guys. If you're ready, if you're here live, it's your time to win some cash. So, well, it's actually a gift card. That's why we call it gift card giveaway. So if you guys are ready, let me know. Gift card giveaway. All right, guys, it's everyone's favorite time of the show. We're going to give away some money. All you have to do is be the first person to answer this question correctly. And the only rule is it has to be what I think is the correct answer. So it's weird rules, I know. You might think you're right, but if it's not what I wrote down on my notes, then you're not right. So here we go. Here's the question. And someone's already pledging that they're going to buy some t-shirts. I've got the merch store, guys. Go to my Instagram, Landscape Lighting Secrets, and you can get the merch store and get some cool landscape lighting stuff. All right, so here's the question. Wait, I got to make sure I got, okay. Yeah. What is the maximum wattage rating of standard 12 gauge wire? So what is the maximum wattage rating of standard 12 to 12 gauge wire? First person to answer this correctly is going to win $50 courtesy of Mawa. Got some guesses coming in. And looks like we've got...
I'm going to exclude Greg Matthews right from the start.
He doesn't know the answer anyway. All right. The winner, again, Brian Denk. Brian. So the answer is 240 watts. We did have some follow-up, which from Tim Ryan, which we can talk about this. The answer actually is 240 watts by the book, derated to 196. What Tim's talking about is the 80% rule. So you never want to put more than 80% on a run, which would derate it down to 192 watts. And also, I would say this, guys, remember that lighting is addictive. It's highly addictive, probably more addictive than a lot of other substances. So when you put lighting in for someone, they're like, you know what? You're right. Let's add those trees. Let's add the lights here. Let's do this. Sometimes they may not trust your initial design because they see a bunch of like dots on a plan or whatever, and it looks like a lot of fixtures is what they're thinking. So don't max out your capacity just because you can put 192 watts, 240 watts on something doesn't mean you should, right? So, and also when you're stripping wires, guys, I see this commonly happening. When you're stripping wires, if you grab some of those strands on accident, and now instead of 60 strands, you only have 50 strands in there. Now you're at like a 13 gauge wire, if there is such a thing. 14 gauge wire is only rated at 180 watts, and then whatever 80% of that is. So make sure you're doing these things the right way, and it's just going to make your life a lot easier when you design, install, and add on to your project. So congratulations, Brian Dank. This guy is like, I don't even know, 10-time winner at this point. And Brian was with us at Illy as well this last week. All right, guys, thanks for playing. Gift card giveaway. We're going to get back to the interview with Jim. I appreciate you being on here, Jim. This is amazing, amazing stuff. Appreciate you being open with us as well.
Of course. There was one thing, Ryan, that you had asked about earlier, how to get started in this. And if I could say one thing, learn how to light a tree. Just that. Just light a tree properly. So you don't have hot spots, so that it's lit completely. Use more fixtures, less light output. And if you can just learn that technique, you're going to be successful, because it's when you start to link this tree with this tree and other elements in the scene, then you have a composition. And that's when things change for you. And that's when you're going to start getting the better projects, and you're going to be looked at differently, and you're going to set yourself apart from the competition.
Nice. That's great advice. So someone can't make it to Illy, dedicate the time, whatever, just practice on your own, practice with a tree. You mentioned less output, more fixtures.
Yeah. More fixtures, less light, less output. The problem with it, trying to do this on your own, because I tried to do this on my own for a good 15 years. Next year will be my 40th year in this business, I guess.
That's awesome, man. Congratulations. That's killer.
But it's gone by fast. But the lighting industry, the results that we're getting are so poor for the most part that everybody's benchmark of what nice lighting is probably realistically a 3 on a 10 scale. And if you can give them a 7 or 8, that's where you blow their minds. And it's not that difficult to do. Whenever anybody finds out I do lighting, they want to tell me, oh, lighting is so important. And I just, okay, yeah, I know. Because I know I know where their benchmark is. Drive around your neighborhood and try to find a nice lighting project, exterior lighting project. It probably doesn't even exist unless, you're looking at your house or something like that. But in the real world, it probably doesn't exist. And so people's comparison of what a nice lighting project is the home that has no lighting. If you think about it, they don't understand about hotspots. They don't understand that the tree's not complete. They don't understand that the light levels are not in concert with one another. How would you even be able to know that that's even what you're supposed to be looking for?
Right.
So, if you want to do this on your own, and I strongly recommend you come take the Illy class, where you actually can do this with people that can help teach you that. Someone has to train your eye to see things differently in terms of light. And that's what we do at the class. That's what made me be able to do the designs that I do. Otherwise, I'm just another guy with fixtures. Light comes on and then we're done, but 25% of the journey, what we do is we make the light illuminate the fixture, the lamp come on. 75% is the art we create with the light that comes out of the fixture. That's everything. That is your value right there.
Yeah, well said. And I'm thinking about like my journey in the lighting industry, others as well. Even you said it wasn't until 2008 that you discovered Jan and Illy and all that stuff. I don't even have a lighting business anymore. I sold my business a few years ago, and the amount that I've learned about design, I'm like, okay, I'd probably change that. I'd go change that. And
We all
everything was overlit. But at the time I thought it looked great because, like, to your point, the neighbor had no lights. The other neighbors that did had a bunch of glare bombs. At least I didn't have, at least one thing I did have was glare control, but I
Right.
didn't have like all these other things that I've learned with light intensities and hierarchy and all that stuff.
Well, for more than half the career, I didn't even know what glare control was. It wasn't really until I got to Jan's and I started, thinking about that because she was, so adamant about getting us to make sure the shrouds were positioned in the correct spot. We're using the right fixture in the right place. There's a lot of ways to mitigate glare. And when you look at the scene, I want you to see the landscape. I don't want you to even think that there are lights out there. I just want you to see the effect of what we're lighting. And that's the beauty of lighting. You get to see the space the way I want you to see it. And I think that's it. I only illuminate the things that I want you to see. And I put them in we call it a hierarchy of light levels, so that your eye will see the scene. There's cohesion, there's softness from left to right, but there's a perceptible difference between the various elements in the scene, and your eye will recognize that, and it will resolve at the focal point. That's the essence of what the artistic design is about. We're creating a composition, much like maybe Hollywood would light a movie set or a scene for an area for a movie. They're using the same principles. We're just using it outside.
Yeah, well said. So you mentioned hierarchy of light. What is that?
It's an apparent brightness between different elements in the scene. It's not something I can quantify. I think the best way to describe it, if you can picture a landscape that has a focal point, where the focal point's a tree or it's an art piece, that's going to be the star of the show, and that should be the brightest element in the scene. So what you do is you take your light level, and in the beginning, I would take it up to a point where it was too bright, and then I would back off of that, and I would make sure that I wasn't getting that glare. Okay, so that sets my highest light level. I'll call it level 1. And then I would take the next important elements, and that would be my level 2 lighting. Take that light level up to the focal point level, and then drop it down till you see what we call a perceptible difference between the two elements. That is your level 2 lighting. And whatever that gap is, it's likely going to be the same gap is going to be your level 2 to level 3 and level 3 to 4. You might have 4, you might have 5 different light elements in the scene. Generally, we're not having too many more than that, but there's always going to be at least 4, I think.
Yeah, I love that. I know our group this last week, we were, as a mentor team, I had already gone through as an attendee, so I knew more than I did 6 months ago, but I still don't feel like hardly anything. But the group had agreed that they were going to have 3 light levels at first, and then the next day they added a 4th, and then by the next day, all of a sudden there was a 5th.
Right.
As they kind of learned more and started tweaking things at night. So that was cool to see that process develop.
Yeah, I think it makes your design have a little more complexity, a little more interest. So I think you need those lower light levels.
How much of what's your design process like? I didn't know this about Jan until I met her, that so much of her work is done at night where she is doing those adjustments. I always just figured she just magically knew everything and then just would put it on paper. Like, this is the exact dimming I want on this or whatever. But what's your process like?
Well, we never install a lighting system that we don't aim. That would be, I can't even imagine that why do it? Because you can't guess. And unfortunately, or fortunately for us, that's how I'll bet the majority of the installations happen in the country. They're oftentimes done by electricians or landscape contractors, and they just put the lights on and that's it. Which is horrible for the client. It's horrible for our industry, but it's opportunity for those of us that do it this way, because it makes it that much easier for us to completely exceed people's expectations. because they're seeing something that's designed and thought through. Anytime you can do an artistic design approach, there are a lot more levels involved to make this happen, as opposed to the prescriptive design approach, which is put 2 lights at a tree, maybe a couple steps, and then it's page 37 of a 40-page document set. It's time for the architect to get paid. He doesn't really care about the lighting. And it really needs to be in around you've got hardscape first, you've got plant material to soften the hardscape, and third needs to be lighting. And it's mixed in with some of the hardscape and landscape design elements, because those are the things you're going to see from from patios, from interior rooms. And so if you can design the landscape thinking about how it's going to look at night, you're going to have a better overall result for not only for your project, but for the client as well.
Yeah. So I remember, I think it was in one of your lectures that I stepped into, or maybe it was a conversation, but you were talking along the lines of, I guess it was throughout your, when you're meeting with a client and you're kind of educating them, right? You're mentoring them on what is the art of lighting as you go, and sharing some stories with them. Can you talk a little bit about the importance of bringing them up to speed with what you're trying to do?
Yeah, from the get-go, I don't sell parts. I don't sell fixtures. Nobody even asks anymore. I used to show up with fixtures, and this is what we could do, and look at this one, look at that one. No. What people want me to do for them is create these scenes, So I sell emotion and experience. That's what I do. And I think part of the process of that, you mentioned before, photographs. First of all, educate. You have to learn how to light a tree, learn how to light things, then take photographs of those that are the quality that you see in if you just go to our Illy website, you can see various photos and take a look at the photos that you're going to take and start to compare them and try to emulate some of that. And get yourself better if you're not, if you don't have the time to come take our course. It's possible to do this on your own, but it's easier to have the head start and people helping you.
No, for sure.
And then once you've got some beautiful photos, when I go meet with clients, I show them photos. We have a professional design plan set. It's a conceptual design set. My assistant Beth, who's sitting right here, hello Beth, draws up some beautiful AutoCAD plans, and we go and we make the presentation. We just had one, was it 3 weeks ago, over on Crescent? We got called to light 4 pieces, to install 4 fixtures on 2 pieces of art, and the art pieces were mirrored. Well, you can't light a mirror. Nobody understood that from the artist to the architect to the client. And I said, what we need to do is we need to light the landscape around it, because that is what you're going to see. You're going to see that reflection. The client said, I get it. I understand. I'm educating. I'm teaching them about how lighting is going to work. She says, go ahead and do it. Well, how many fixtures on that project? 450. It went from 4 fixtures to 450 fixtures.
That's awesome.
And Beth and I went the next day. We got the tree plan. I like to work off of the tree plan. If you've got an architect who can get you a CAD set, we turn off all the layers except the hardscape and the trees. If you try to draw over top of the landscape plants, it gets busy and it's hard to see your fixtures. And so that's what we work off of. So we had that plan. Her and I went back, and what it'd take us 2 hours, hour and a half to do the design. We walked around, we looked at each space, she made notes, and about 2 days later, the plan was done. And the next day we presented, and the client says, I love this. I'm just giving you the deposit right now. I said, I don't even need you to, no, I don't even want the deposit. Just think about it. Just, think, no, here you go. I mean,
that's awesome. So what's cool is, like, people don't know what's possible until you inspire them and show them what's possible.
Photographs, stories, like some of the stories that I've told you, I think those are important. elements to the entire education, in lighting. Stories work with anything. Stories have been around, been told for, since humans have been involved. And that's, people gather around, and when you start doing that, people started becoming invested in you, and you're no longer an unknown entity, because now they feel some connection to you. And if the stories are relevant and they're interesting, then I think they're a must. And when I'm doing walkthroughs or reveals for clients, I pay particular attention to the comments that they're going to give me, because I can use those comments later on future clients or future conversations that I have in lighting, whether I'm meeting with landscape architects, I do a lunch and learn, or I can do talks anywhere on lighting. And I think these are all very important points that help the person I'm talking to feel the emotion inside. I'll give you one example. We did a big project for people that own a big bank. They have everything, and we installed about 1,000 fixtures at their home. And she's very stoic. There's not much in the way of emotion in that equation. And she walked out, and about 30 seconds into the walk into the motor cart, she stops the group, and she turns and she says, "I have to tell you, this makes me feel like it's Christmas morning." And that's the power that lighting can bring if you do it properly. And I think there are very few things in life that you can actually get that kind of result from, especially from someone that has literally everything.
I love it. When I met you and you were talking about stories, I think I mentioned this to you. It's like, you don't even know that you're like a marketing genius.
No, I'm not. No, I'm not. I'm just me. And I tell my experiences, and I think I'm passionate about what I do. I love the results we get, and I mean, a lot of the guys that I worked with at the department, that are retired also, they do nothing really except, they fix things at home, and they golf twice a week, and, that kind of stuff. And I feel bad that they don't have this level of excitement that I get. When we're walking projects, and after doing aiming, we were aiming last night on a big project, and it's just to start to see this come to life. My team is excited. I'm pointing out things. I'm teaching them why it looks so good. Why I think it's important that we get them to understand the beauty that they help create. They're part of the package that creates all this. And I think it's so much fun. You drive home, you're inspired, and I can't wait. The client wasn't there because we're not done with the project, but I can't wait till they see it. It's going to blow their minds.
That's so cool. Well, I love that you share stories. I think it's a good reminder to all of us. For you, it seems natural, like it's just natural. But if you can teach something and tell someone like, this is what to do and here's why. But when you share that story, that's where it becomes relatable, because that's why we have movies. That's why there's books. Like, people love stories.
Right.
Makes it so relatable and so understandable, instead of just being so direct to the point. So,
right. Well, I think part of it is I think about lighting differently than I did before. And I see opportunities. Like when I walk on a project initially, my first site visit, all I care about is what I have to light. What is going to be on this project that I can make look beautiful. And so that's the goal I go in. I'm just not looking for another project. I don't need another project. I'm looking for opportunities to create.
I love it. I love your passion. I love your energy. I love that you're in a phase now where you're still working, obviously, but you're also giving back. You're part of ILLI. You're on the board. You're a lead instructor, more than willing to, take time to help anybody out. So really, really appreciate your time. Thanks for coming on here, Jim.
Thank you.
All right, guys. Hope you're taking notes. Hope you're going to go back and listen to this one again. Jim was nice enough to share a lot of his strategies, a lot of the things that he does to help grow his business to the point he's at right now. absolute rock star. So thanks again, Jim. Everyone have a great week.
Welcome to
Whoa. See you, everybody.